We are here with Dr. Marks, Dr. Robert Marks, along with Dr. Dana Daniel Blake. And they are the authors of the new book entitled The Crucible of Illness, which is really intriguing to me. A Crucible of Illness, a doctor's story of faith, hope, and healing. And could you share a little bit initially, I think, just about the idea for the book? How did this come to pass?
Absolutely. I would say that the idea for the book generated from three different streams or influences. One was just my own growth as a believer. And then secondly, my experiences in just being involved with patients and families who are sick and involved with severe illness, and just seeing how that plays out. And then thirdly, just the leading of the Holy Spirit to put all of this together in book form.
Absolutely. Well, and I find the collaboration very interesting because you're a physical therapist, also a professor, and you as a gastroenterologist and also a board certified internal medicine physician. So talk about the collaboration on this book.
Well, as I began to kind of more formally think about the book, one of the nurses that I work with listened to it, and she was intrigued with it as well. And she said, you need to talk to Dana.
Oh.
I said, well, who's Dana? And it turns out I actually knew her because I took care of her father.
Oh, wow.
But our relationship was very casual at that point.
Yeah.
And so I put together what I had and shipped it to her, and she was very enthusiastic about it and kind of shared my vision, and we both felt the leading of the Holy Spirit, and we thought what we brought to each other as a team would work well together. It really has been an amazing collaboration, I think.
Yeah, well, and so let's talk about the title a little bit. How did we come up with that?
And if I could just add something,
Yes.
it's been really a fun adventure. Our writing styles are very similar. They're very easy, very personable, kind of a very dialogue type thing. So when he writes something, if I'm adding something or anything, it's been very easy. Editing for us went through very easy together. The copyright process with the publisher went through very easy. And I think with all the things that happen in the world and the different challenges and everything, here we are, a male and a female, a physician and a physical therapist, an African-American gentleman, a Caucasian female, Baptist, Pentecostal. We have many differences, but the unifying factor of it all was that we both loved the Lord.
Yes.
And it made the process very easy. I do believe that the Lord wanted this book published. We went through getting a consultant to help us, and then all of a sudden I went to a publishing class here at Sanford University where I'm on faculty, and they were sharing some things, and they connected us to their publisher. And from the time we had the manuscript finished this July of 2025, I went to the course in August of 2025. We contacted the publisher, and we had a contract in September.
Wow.
And then it went to print around the first of the year, January of 26. So the collaboration, I think that God placed us together, and we knew each other from the healthcare field, but when my father went through the situation with his healthcare issue, he is now, been 14 years now in remission.
Wow.
But it was a time of spiritual warfare for me when God took me much deeper, and I believe in healings and miracles, and I believe in the trial that comes with the crucible of illness. So this really resonated and has been, I would say, I think Dr. Marks would agree, a passion project for both of us.
Wow. Yeah, and you kind of led into, as far as the title, and you're referencing the crucible of illness.
So a little bit of the kind of the backstory is, so as the Lord led me through these patient encounters, some amazing spiritual things were happening. And as I would share some of these with my small group and in various places, I would talk to people like, wow, this is amazing. And they would be filled with so much hope, godly hope. And so the Lord began to direct me, you need to put a lot of these together and let's get that out to a much bigger audience. So I began to compile these. So one of the things that we as believers do is we need to spend some time alone with the Lord in your prayer closet. Well, my prayer closet is my shower.
Okay.
So it is there that the distractions of the world seem to go away, and I can hear the voice of the Lord speaking to me. And very clearly, while I was in the shower, he gave me the word crucible.
Okay.
And I kind of sort of thought I knew what a crucible was, but not really. So I started doing some investigating at the Lord's prompting. And so a crucible experience is a time of severe testing or trial. But in metallurgic terms, a crucible is a vessel where you can put impurities in this vessel and have it heated to extremely high temperatures, and the impurities either completely melt away or they rise to the top where they can be skimmed off. This is especially ironic that we're in Birmingham, right in the shadows of Red Mountain. So
Yes.
we know that the iron ore and the steel industry, well, when you dig into Red Mountain, you don't just come out with pure iron.
No.
You've got to put all of that into a vessel and get rid of all the impurities that are there. And what you're left through this trial of high temperatures is the pure metal. There's also a crucible in the Marine Corps training program where they do 54 hours, I think, of marching, and they have to undergo periods of sleep deprivation, food deprivation, leadership, physical training, and so that is a well-known kind of pathway. And so what we have found is that term crucible seems to grab people.
Yeah.
And so very much we all experience these crucible-like moments. And what really started the process for me is I felt overwhelmed as a somewhat baby Christian when this first started, and I was sharing my concerns about my patients, many of whom were sick. They were filled with times of sorrow, and that's the nature of the healthcare business.
Yeah.
And as I shared these things with her, she said, well, let me just tell you a little story to help you, because she's a mature believer. I said, okay, great. So she starts to share with me the story of her sister. Her sister, they grew up in a Christian home. Parents were believers, but this one particular sister was very much a prodigal. Never accepted the Lord. She went through multiple marriages, multiple poor life choices, and really had become estranged from her family. And then at age 41, she was diagnosed with metastatic ovarian cancer.
Wow.
Horrible prognosis. And because she was estranged from the family, she was basically all alone. As the course progressed, she realized she needed some help, and she asked her younger sister, who was a believer, who had just graduated from college, will you please just come and stay with me? Will you help me in my doctor's visits? And so during the course of the final stages of her disease, she turned to her sister one day and she said, you know, I'm dying and I'm going to go to hell because I have lived a life of rebellion and sin. And her baby sister turned to her and said, it's not too late. And she offered her that God will offer you salvation and forgiveness. And she shared with her the story of the thief on the cross, how the repentant thief at the last possible moment confessed, repented, and Jesus told him, this day you will be with me in paradise. So she talked to her sister who was dying with ovarian cancer, and walked her through the sinner's prayer, and she accepted Christ. 2 weeks later, she passed away. And so my nurse, Pam, was sharing this story with me. And I'm like, okay, well, great, Pam. I'm already feeling badly about all of my patients are not doing well, and you've dropped this on me. But she then asked me this question. Was the diagnosis of ovarian cancer an unrecognized blessing? Had it not been for the long, indolent course of the ovarian cancer, which gave her family a chance to continue to pour Christ into her, what would be her eternal fate? So as a consequence of the ovarian cancer, she came to know the Lord. And so the Holy Spirit began working in me like, wow. So spending time in the crucible of illness can be a blessing if you have a perspective of godly hope.
Yeah. Well, and this is, I know that the book is designed in a way almost like you call them parables, and that's kind of an example of how the flow of the book goes, right? Is that?
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the book is comprised of 8 medical parables, and the stories are each unique. But they each reflect a different dimension of being in the crucible of illness, from surrender to forgiveness to healing, a variety of endpoints. And my hope is that, and Dana and I have talked about this, that we hope that every reader will be able to see themselves in some part of one of those stories.
Yeah. There's also even miracles and spiritual warfare. I remember with the situation with my father, God had woken me up 6 months before that diagnosis with Dr. Marks, getting me ready, reading spiritual books about building my faith up, because we were going into a battle.
Yeah.
And that spiritual warfare is real, and God instructs us to pray. And these medical parables have, there's some that sometimes these people have died, but there's other situations where it didn't even make sense from a medical standpoint, and they're true miracles.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it seems to me this is a book in which you can really grow in your faith. I love the way you have the questions at the ends of each parable, right?
Yes. And let me add one thing before we get to the question. I want to just read one of the testimonials.
Okay.
That's a very short one. There is a young mother named Naima, and she's a family friend, and she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And her husband and I are buddies, and I was sharing with him about the book, and she sent me this in an email during the early phases of it. She says, I am learning more about the Lord in this trial than if he had not allowed it. I don't think I would have experienced God in this way without this. I find myself being comforted and strengthened by the Lord at the same time. He's really near, and I'm learning to trust him and rejoice because he hasn't failed or left me, and he won't do it now. Disease is a result of the fall. It's not pretty, and it's not the disease that I rejoice in. I rejoice in the Lord, and in everything I give thanks, even with a brain tumor. I said early on in my diagnosis that if I don't grow closer to the Lord, experience Jesus in a deeper way, grow in my faith, grow in prayer, and worship him more, then what is the point of him healing me?
Wow. Pretty profound.
I mean, that's powerful testimonies.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, so share what is your hope, I guess, with this book? I mean, you shared it somewhat already, but in terms of what you hope it achieves.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that we want our readers to develop a perspective of godly hope while you are in the midst of trouble. James says it best, and this is radical now, but it's in the Bible. He says, consider it pure joy when you face troubles of many different kinds, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And let perseverance finish its work so that you will be complete and mature and not lacking anything. So I have searched the scriptures all over looking for an easier way to get to maturity and growth, but it seems that trouble is a necessary catalyst. So we don't go out of our way to want to be sick and to have trouble, but it's going to occur. But if you have a godly perspective of hope, there are some important lessons to be learned that you can only learn when you're in trouble, when you are sick. There is grace to be unveiled. There are revelations to be understood. There are lessons to be learned. There is faith to be refined. You can't learn it anywhere else. And it was Dana's idea to come up with the post-parable questions.
Yes.
So I'll let her talk
Okay.
about that.
Yes, great, thank you. So we've got the real medical parables. Each chapter is a real medical parable, which is a patient that Dr. Marks has seen. And then we wanted to try to help the reader apply it to themselves, whether it was a spiritual warfare story or a perseverance or love of a loved one that maybe was in a difficult situation that was hard to love, whatever that central truth was that had the story. So at the end of each parable, we have a little workbook section. And so you can then think about, well, how does this patient or character or family member, and we have the names there, how does that apply in your life? How does this situation, how do you see God's power and perseverance and presence in this area? What are you struggling with? And then we also, at the end of each chapter, we have different songs that help support, like the Waymaker and different types of things that really match the theme. And you can click on it if you want to go to the link and listen to the song, or you can make yourself at the end. We have a Crucible playlist. And so if you just are going through something difficult, you can make yourself and build 20 songs that will just light you up. I remember for me, with my daddy's struggle, The Great I Am was a song that sometimes I just would listen to it 5 and 6 or 7 times till my heart, the heaviness would pass away. So you can go through this at the end of each section. And then at the end of the book, we have another section that helps you apply the entire book. Now this is helpful for the individual reader. Because the book is built for a reader. If you're going through something, or a family member's going through something, or a friend, you could go get this book and give it to them, and it is not a downer.
Yeah.
It is an encouragement. Yes, these are difficult cases, but it's an encouragement. You could also have a situation where you're leading a small group, and you could set it up on 10 weeks. The 8 parables have an introduction section and a closing section, so it could be 10 weeks. It's also set up from a medical perspective, since he's a physician and I'm a physical therapist. It's also set up from a medical perspective that a university can also use it. It includes review of systems. It goes through gastroenterology, the gastric system, the cardiopulmonary systems. It's also got cancer diagnoses, COVID, different types of diagnoses, so that you can actually apply it from a full medical.
Awesome.
He puts the real terms, and then I help make sure that we had lay terms in parentheses so that anyone that reads it will understand it. But we also have that so that it can be used to cover those medical situations, and it can also be used to cover the spiritual care. We know that patients want us to address their spiritual needs. And so part of accreditation for programs, medical, nursing, pharmacy, is that you learn how to address spiritual needs. And this is a beautiful depiction of how a physician addressed the spiritual needs of a patient, which would help a student understand how to do that.
Wow.
And so the book is built to serve 3 entities: the individual person, the small groups, as well as university settings.
That's awesome. And the format it's available on is both digital and print, correct?
Yes, print and ebooks.
Okay.
And let me just piggyback about the songs. Singing is so important. And as I did research for the book, I found that there are a lot of scriptural references about singing. So first of all, there's good physiologic data that when we sing, we release what are called endorphins that help us feel better, that help us deal with stress and anxiety. And the Bible is filled with examples of the importance of singing. Remember when Paul and Silas were in jail in Philippi at midnight? They started calling up a hymn. You know, Jesus sang while he was on earth. God actually God sings over his people. So singing is a way of connecting and remembering when God showed up and showed out. And so one of the things that we did is we have a Crucible playlist at the end.
Okay.
And you can individualize that so that so that it speaks to you when you're in your moment of need.
Wow. A lot of thought has gone into this, and I know it's been a lot of work. If people want to learn more about the book, purchase the book, they can do that by going to the website. Is that right?
Yes, so there's Kendall Hunt is the publisher. And so if you just Google Kendall Hunt, The Crucible of Illness, it'll pop right up.
Okay.
You can click into it and order the ebook, or you can order a print book, and I think it's $5 in shipping, and you can have the book within a week or two.
Awesome. Well, thank
Can
you.
I add one other thing before
Sure.
we stop? So I'm a huge John Grisham fan, and man, he tells some great stories. And what I found when I would read his stories is that he's got a little bit of legal lingo in there, and he doesn't hit you over the head with it. But at the end of the book, I realized, you know what? I've learned a little legal stuff. So as you read through The Crucible of Illness, there's medical stuff in there.
Yes.
And the whole point is so that you will be educated about the disease processes, how these things present, how you need to convey that to your doctor, what are the diagnostic tests. And we don't hit you over the head with it, but I think you will find that you actually have acquired a fair amount of medical knowledge from these medical parables that go through. So that was important to us to convey as well.
And we also have research articles, so our data is backed up. And as a faculty member here at Stanford University in the Department of Physical Therapy, you know, the research and everything is important. So we've made sure to include it. It's not doesn't read like a journal article or anything. It does read very easy, but we also have videos that are associated with it, so that for each chapter you hear from Dr. Marks and myself telling you what you're about to learn about. If you choose to do the ebook, or if you when you get the paper book, you can actually get a password code and get
awesome.
those videos from us. And so Stanford is very much faith-based and wanted, we've used those videos in our recording facilities to help be able to provide that to our readers, to make it a more personal and a more intimate, kind of like you could sit and have coffee with us as you get ready to read that chapter.
And Stanford has been incredible to us. I mean, not to mention, you know, Dana's faculty here, but the support they've given us for editorial and the video stuff has just been amazing. And one last thing that I would like to add, and one of the unique things about this book is just the absolute sheer power of the testimonies of these patients who are willing to share their stories. You know, testimony is very important. It means you're an eyewitness to something. And the book of Revelations describes that when Satan tried to take over heaven, the archangel Michael put him down. And he put him down with two things: the blood of the Lamb and the words of their testimony. And so what we have found when we share these things, it's one thing to have the facts and the scriptures, but when you connect all that together with real life patient testimonies, this is what happened to me, it opens up a door, a portal for everybody to jump in. Well, if that happened to you, that means God can help me too.
That's right. That is right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
And we had it's been read by many people before it ever went to print, and we incorporated some of their suggestions and recommendations and different types of things, but it is overwhelmingly, we would see notes like, okay, I am crying, you've got to get this book out. And it's had such a wonderful, very receptive concept that, I mean, we're prepared to keep doing volume 2 and volume 3. As long as the Lord wants it and as long as people need it, then we are prepared to continue.
And even though Dana and I are the authors, there was a whole community of believers
Yes.
who helped bring it to this point.
Yes.
We've had other physicians, healthcare providers, pastors, lay leaders, and they really helped to shape and morph this thing as it kind of came along. So it's definitely a community of believers
Yeah.
effort to get to this point.
And it was actually, the foreword was written by the CEO, Dr. Vickers,
Vickers.
at Sloan Kettering. So the level of the book is also a very substantial
I
medical
noticed that
component too.
So, The Crucible of Illness. You need to check it out. Thank you so much for sharing the background story.
Thank you.